All right, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to this June 12th episode of The Truth with Ben Jokes, your trusted channel for political analysis. 32 years after June 12th, democracy declining under APC, PDP, Afenifere, Ohaneze, Arewa Consultative Forum, others. This is the true story. But to be honest, we can't put all the blame of our pseudo-democracy on the APC. The people, ordinary Nigerians, have also played great roles in the decline of our so-called democracy. I have said here many times that if Nigerians completely reject the politicians in power who have failed the people, they will not be able to rig themselves back to power. If we cannot sanitize our electoral system, then we should just kiss goodbye to anything called democracy. It can never have meaning. But as far as we have some Nigerians still supporting the manipulation of Mahmoud Yakubu in 2023, the June 12th celebration is a complete waste of time. Because when a so-called leader comes in through a flawed electoral process, whatever he tries to build will be on a faulty foundation and it will never last. And that takes me to our top story. Sonolu chose Democracy Day to expose Tinubu after making up with him over the Obasa impeachment saga. Tinubu viewed the impeachment of Lagos Speaker Obasa by Sonolu as a direct attack on his authority, his leadership of Lagos State, because Obasa is his boy. But they settled that beef and they put that aside. But just days after settling that beef, Sonolu is coming out on June 12th to make this speech. And after listening to this speech, many Nigerians began to wonder if it was a mistake by Sonolu or another deliberate attack on Tinubu by Sonolu. Before I show you details of these top stories and how Nigerians reacted, let me quickly show you this video. This video here has Chief OLU Akonde speaking on what we need to do before we even begin to say we have a democracy. He said, right now, what we have is a civil rule. See the video.
The next kind of progress that we need to make is, first of all, to understand that when we were fighting the military, it wasn't difficult for us to have a coalition, and I'm using that sense, that the word broadly, of politicians, political class, professionals, civil society, students, and everybody agreeing that, look, we need to get the soldiers out. Now, we have managed to do that for 26 years. What we need to do now is to get a national consensus on what are the minimal things that a democratic government ought to deliver, regardless of partisanship, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of our tension lines, religion, whatever it is that divides us. That is the battle that we are doing now, because it turns out that democracy is different from civil rule. Democracy ought to be a situation where the people is government of the people, for the people, by the people. So there are a lot of things that we need to tweak to really make that happen. We haven't quite gotten to the point. Start with the kind of apathy that we have in voting. If you look at our numbers, over 200 million people, how many people are voting? The last election, we had probably, maybe 12, how many millions? Less than 20 million people, voting. A little bit more than that, even registered. So we need to understand that those processes are very critical. We need to be able to deliver that. Look, if somebody gets power, it is because the people really, really wanted them to have power, and that they are able to remove them when they don't deliver. That is the foundation. We haven't tightened that foundation. That foundation is not as strong as it ought to be. And that's the battle that we have to fight. That's one of the battles that we have to fight. The other battle is, like I said, is a national consensus on rule of law, a national consensus on fighting corruption, a national consensus on fighting poverty. These are the big ticket items. A national conversation on ending insecurity. Look at how long we have had to live under all kinds, all shades of insecurity, from terrorism,
perhaps a challenge,
insurgency, and banditry, and kidnapping, and we have been fighting it for so long. It's as if it's rocket science, and it is not.
Perhaps
so my point, I'll learn now, is that
all right.
The kind of battle that we need to do now is different from the one that we did that produced this civilian rule. And it's important for us to understand why it is different and how we have to organize differently. We can't organize this next battle depending on politicians.
You heard that. He said the foundation of democracy is electoral process, a great electoral process. He said when somebody is in power, the people must be able to say they put him in power, and they must be able to remove him if he doesn't deliver on his promises. That is what is important. Not building of bridges to say you are delivering the dividend of democracy. Not coastal roads, not renovation of ICC with 35 billion naira. All that does not mean that you have a democracy if the people are not able to elect their leaders. And then when the people are hungry and insecure in a country that is one of the largest exporter of crude oil, you can't say that you have democracy in place. And when you look at all these problems bedeviling the so-called democracy and you think of how to fix them, you have to come back to what we have been saying, which is the people. Because the politicians will never make moves to solve these problems. They are the ones benefiting from these problems. They are never going to solve it. It is the people that will say, no, enough is enough. We cannot continue to deceive ourselves that we have a country. We must make things work. And when Nigerians begin to come together to speak like this, they can easily take their country back. In this next video, Alhaji Ibrahim Modibo takes a subtle dig at Tinubu on Democracy Day. See the video.
At this one, if you look at the political temperament of the country generally, especially under INEC, it has not been able to meet the minimum standard of expectations of the Nigerian populace. In my opinion, I think there is the need to calibrate the activities of INEC with a view to dotting the I's and also crossing the T's so as to conform with the global standard on which democracy operates. If you look at India, for example, it has almost 1 billion population, but you'll never hear of all these problems arising from mismanagement of the electoral system and also the electoral votes. But Nigeria, with virtually 200 million, we are always having problems upon problems. That was why when late President Umar Musa Yar'Adua, may God bless his soul, stated that, look, he has been elected, but then the election fell short of the minimum standard, and therefore the responsibility is for him, or the onus is for him, to make sure that there are electoral reforms. And I completely agree with him, because he came as a man of conscience and a man of character. Unlike some of these people now that we have, they sit under trees, they write results, and they start jumping, beating drums and everything, saying that, look, they've won. In the real sense of the word, they have not come close to winning.
You heard that. So when they say that all politicians are the same, I will always say no. Yar'Adua got into Aso Rock and recognized that the election that brought him into power was flawed. So he called the late Justice Wise and he said, listen, do all you can to give Nigeria credible electoral reforms that can ensure free and fair elections. And Justice Wise went to work with that panel, but Yar'Adua died so soon. If he had stayed alive to implement all the recommendations of that panel, we wouldn't be where we are today. Even this electronic transfer of results from polling unit to RF that we've been talking about was a specification of that panel by Justice Wise that was constituted by Yar'Adua. But Tinubu benefited from the worst election scam ever in our history, but he hasn't done anything to try to improve INEC. If anything, he's trying to force everybody to join him in the APC. Why? Because he only does things that are of benefit to him. If something does not benefit him, he will never do it. And that takes us to our top story. After 2 years in office, The only thing that comes close to being an achievement for Tinubu is the local government autonomy. But Sonolu, in this his new speech, just rubbished that achievement, insinuating that the local government elections are not about Nigerians but about Tinubu's second term in office. Look at how the papers reported it. Lagos Governor Sonolu has described the upcoming local government elections as strategic groundwork for Tinubu's second term ambitions. Lagos State Governor Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu said the local government elections scheduled for next month would be a preparatory ground for Bola Tinubu's re-election. Sanwo-Olu called on residents of the state to demonstrate their loyalty to Tinubu and APC by using the local government elections to show their support for Tinubu. The local government elections in Lagos State is slated for July 12. Sonolu made the call at the commissioning of the new Ibeju-Lekki Local Government Secretariat Complex, Legislative Building and 400 meters paved road, as well as the groundbreaking of the Ibeju-Lekki Housing Scheme. The upcoming local government elections is a strategic groundwork for Tinubu's re-election. In other words, it is not about the local government chairman. It has nothing to do with the people. It is all about Tinubu. I have never heard a statement as absurd as this statement in a very long time. And this just rubbishes everything that Tinubu claims to have achieved from the local government autonomy, because it has actually buttressed the point of some of us who said that, listen, this man approved local government autonomy so that he can control 774 local governments of this country. And that is what Sonolu is saying there. You have to show your support for Tinubu as you go to the polls for the local government elections. Meaning anybody, any local government chairman aspirant that is not loyal to Tinubu, that will not return all the money that was paid to him to Tinubu, will not be allowed into office. That is what he's saying. It is left to be seen if this man is actually saying this thing as a sycophantic act, or he's actually exposing Tinubu, making Nigerians to know that this is what this man is doing. Because just about a month and a half ago, this man removed the speaker that was imposed on the Lagos State Assembly by Tinubu. Sanwo-Olu removed the speaker, Tunde Obasa. He was trying to tamper with Tinubu's authority in Lagos State by removing that speaker. So, coming out to tell Nigerians now that Tinubu wants to make all the local governments about himself is clearly portraying Tinubu in a very, very terrible light on Democracy Day. Because what is more undemocratic than you sitting down in Aso Rock and controlling local government chairmen? And this tweet here by King Amen says, obviously now, the local government elections was because of Tinubu's re-election. You think him approving local governments to collect their own money by themselves was out of goodwill? It was never out of goodwill. Sanwo-Olu has exposed that for the whole world to see now. And Duke here says, I said it before and I'm still repeating it. The whole agenda of their local government automation across is to infiltrate their guys in grassroots, particularly in the states where opposition are dominant. That is what it is all about. And Adiola Deni here says, nonsense talk. Are you practicing democracy rather than kakistocracy? Well, this is clear kakistocracy. And Enio Olorunfe says, Mr. Dummy, you don't fail on arrival. Lagos youths for Peter Obi, Victoria Asata. Wow. So how do you feel hearing this on Democracy Day? I don't know about you, but I feel so terrible. Because whether we like it or not, Nigeria is our country. It belongs to all of us. So when a few persons begin to use this country anyhow they want, begin to use this country like their father's backyard, it is so painful. Because it means we are a defeated people. They defeated us and took over the country. This country has so much resources. It has enough for everybody to be living well. But look at what we have become. The poverty capital of the world. 2.9 million malnourished children. You talk about every negative thing in this world, Nigeria ranks top 10, top 5 in many cases. Go to unemployment, we are there. Poverty, we are there. Insecurity, we are now being ranked with countries like Yemen and the rest. That was why Nigerians came down heavily on Jamiu Abiola's son, when he came out to say this. 32 years after June 12, Nigeria still grappling with vices my father fought. Jamiu Abiola. Nigerians said, shut up, young man. Last year, August, when Nigerians were coming out to protest the End Bad Governance protest, he got on Channels TV and began defending this government. The same stupid Jamiu defended the Buhari government. Nigerians must stop acting like this. This country belongs to all of us. People should not sell out to these politicians because it looks as if they are so powerful. It is because we have not united. It is because we have not kept aside our sentiments. And that is why I keep preaching this. If Nigerians can jettison their sentiments and unite, we will be able to take our country back. But until then, make I still enter town, make I go get some ogbonge political news wey una go like. Why? Because of una. Now I dey here, so don't go away. Don't go away.